Good girl, good drop. Ready? Go on then. Welcome to the literal house of Sonnaz. This is my home and I'm going to take you through the interior and the exterior to show you the renovation that I'm currently undertaking. People often assume and actually say to me that my own home must be absolutely phenomenal because of my line of work, but you may be surprised to see that at the moment that is not the case because I am living in a project and I'm very much looking forward to bringing you on the journey to show you the ins and outs exactly as if it was a client's home. Quite often we're involved with projects from this stage. So instead of doing it for clients, I'm doing it for myself. I moved into the house in August, actually, of 2022, which is nearly 4 years ago. We're a couple of months off that. And I knew it was going to be a renovation, but I didn't realize how big of a renovation it was actually going to be. And of course, there were some nasties that weren't obvious at the time, but have made themselves obvious. From the top, welcome to my entrance, my atrium, as I like to call it when my friends come over. It's quite big, it's quite spacious. There's a cloakroom there, so a guest cloakroom. This goes through to the living space, and through here, this goes through to another room, which was the snug when I originally looked around it. I picture quite a grand entrance here. To me, the entrance of a home really sets the tone for the rest of your interior. And I can't wait to rip these flagstones up because it's not giving me any joy whatsoever. What I did love about the house was these double doors. Again, not my style, but to come into a living space with huge French doors is quite a nice thing. I must warn you that nothing has been done. So the furniture that's in here are just samples from over the years that I've been making to trial new styles. The floor hasn't been changed. Nothing has been changed. So this really is a very raw and real look into where I am at the moment with the renovation. There's lots to tell you about what's been ripped out and how I've got to this stage, but please don't judge my pink Chesterfield sofa or my crush pink outside sections of a wingback chair. They won't be here in the long run. You know that little Maggie Moose is my now nearly 9-month-old puppy. So this room really is for her. The only thing that exists in this room when I moved in are these shelves. I haven't taken them down at all. And the hilarious thing about this particular shelf, which is at exactly the wrong height, is that the brackets have been actually sunk in to the wall. So I tried to take it off, but it would actually mean opening up the wall. A problem for another day. I'm going to leave them in there for now. It's not doing any harm. But that is a little insight into the lovely surprises that I discovered around this house. Through the living room, well, I say the living room, Maggie's room, because she's a puppy, the furniture is covered and not so attractive wall has been made so that she can have a baby gate. And when I go out for an hour or so, she kind of roams in this space. There were other pieces of furniture in here, but while she's a pup, until she's at least a year old, I'm not bringing any other furniture in here. The other thing as well worth noting is that all the artwork that I've got, I've literally just put them on the wall so that they're not on the ground. So placing artwork, pardon the pun, is a real art in itself. So I cannot wait till that day where I can buy some more artwork and actually position them properly. In here, it's not too bad. I'm quite happy with the positions of them, but I might not have that one in here, for example. It's a whole thing. The thing about this kitchen is, as you can see, it's very long and dark. That's the two worst kind of features to have and makes it incredibly difficult to work around in terms of design. What is good is that it's actually very cool in here. Today it's 34 degrees, but in here it feels very, very cool, which is great. But this kitchen was put in 2017, and actually the extension of the living space, Maggie's room, was 2017, and I think this area was 1990 maybe. And there are better ways to use this space. I've got quite a big dining table here, so I cannot wait to redesign this space potentially. I'm not 100% sure how I'm going to do that yet. One of the really annoying features that I find in homes, any homes, are radiators, because there's a radiator right on this wall which fouls the dining table. And that's very awkward to work around. There are solutions, but every step has a knock-on effect to the final finish. So I'm telling you this because these are exactly the things that I talk through with clients when they're at the building stage. So a stage on from me now where everything's ripped out. More of that later on. The key design feature in here is plaster coming off of the wall, as you can see. So here was an upstand. But the problem with that upstand was that it was fouling the plug sockets that were going in here, and we couldn't push them in far enough. So I've just ripped it off because it was incredibly annoying, and clearly the walls had been skimmed before the cupboards went off, because that layer of plastering has come off. And it does annoy me every time I look at it, but there are bigger problems than this to solve first. And you'll see those as we go around the house. When my friends come over, every friend almost says, "Oh, I love your splashback." I do not love it. It's not the type of splashback that I would have. I've taken the top of this hood off because it's exactly the wrong height for my head. And it's one of those extractors that just goes in. There's no tube out, as I discovered. Because it's broken, I tried to fix it. And then I just thought, hang on a minute, this isn't connected to outside. It doesn't make sense to me. I would expect an extractor to have one of those silver tubes to go outside to take the smells out of the house. And it doesn't. So it doesn't work. It's the wrong height. And it really is a problem for another day. But that being said, the layout of this kitchen is quite good. I love the fact that I've got this huge window, and you'll see that I've actually tried to make the outside here prettier. I'll get to outside later. The window does need changing because it's blown. You can see where the glass has kind of gone opaque. So this will be changed. If you're thinking about putting a big window in front of your sink, if I was you, and what I would love to change on this window, if I get the opportunity, is to actually brick up here slightly and then have the window, because the water splashes onto here when you're washing up. And I live in a very limescale heavy area, and I can't tell you how many times I've cleaned this window and then the next day the limescale's back. So that's quite annoying. If I can, I will get that built in, and then also it's somewhere that you can put your washing up liquid, etc. against. Another one of the delightful design features or misdesign features in this house that I noticed when we moved in were these cupboards. So clearly they're too deep for this wall. So when this was being knocked out, it wouldn't have taken much to have brought this wall out level, and everything that would have just fitted just right. And it doesn't here. So if I can bring that wall flush, maybe I will. I'm not 100% sure yet, but it's just another one of those niggles. Where I used to live, which was a 2-bedroom flat, I had an under-counter fridge with a small freezer door. But in this house, I've got a full fridge and a full height freezer. And I can't tell you how life-changing that has been. And I really felt like I was kind of bossing at adulthood, having a full height fridge and a full height freezer. The doors are off because everything's overheating. There's not enough airflow around these, and they haven't been working as optimally as they should have. We noticed that pretty quickly. And you know how sometimes you live with little niggles and problems for quite a long time. And I think that was the case before. Also, because of that, opening the door, using the doors that were on there, because it's an integrated, it was really hard to get them open. And I was snapping through these. In fact, you can see that one there is snapped. I was snapping basically these brackets that kept the door on. So we've taken those off so that these have got a bit more ventilation. The other oh my God, the best thing ever, a larder. Now, my dream is to have a walk-in larder. That will blow my mind. But to have a full height larder, organised, was kind of a today's dream come true. So there's plenty of storage here. It just could be designed a bit better, but I'm absolutely determined to get the best out of this space. You know, in kitchens, they talk about the golden triangle. So the cooker to sink to side. I don't quite have that. This is quite a long triangle. So being able to use the sink, cook at the same time, and like a prep area, it's not ideal. It could be improved. And actually, I'm toying with the idea of actually getting a different style fridge freezer. The ones where the two doors open and then you have the freezer at the bottom with trays, because I think it will reduce the width of this and give me a little bit more space. And then maybe I could have a cupboard there, have a bit more prep space over here. I don't know. Lots to figure out. Because this is a functioning space, I'm not even thinking about it because, like I said before, you'll see in a minute why this is not priority. I did quite a lot of research about having puppies. She's the first puppy I've ever had. And one of the key things was to not let them roam around the house wherever they wanted. So not only is there a baby gate there off of her room into the dining room, I put another one here. Aesthetically, not the best look, but until she's older, they're going to stay. Now we get to the really, I don't want to say grisly part of the house, but what's been quite a challenging part. And anybody who's done a renovation of their own, you'll know that a huge amount of work goes into behind the walls, under the floors, on the roof even, before you even start to get to the really fun, amazing interior and dressing bits. And that has been the same for this house as well, because you'll notice that this floor is just covered with a piece of scrap carpet. When I first moved into this house, this whole floor actually had quite a bounce to it. And that was because all of the joists were pretty much rotten and all needed to come up. And as you'd walk down the hall, you kind of felt like you were going downhill. That's because you were, though there was a 3-inch difference from here to the big master bedroom. So none of it was level at all, really showcasing the fact that it's a 100-year-old part of the house. Things like even this door lining, I will rip this out and I will put a much neater finished door lining in. Tiny, tiny details and finishes that all make up for an incredible home once they're done. But when looking around the house, I knew that this was all kind of cosmetic things that I'd be able to sort later. What you will be able to see in this hall is that this is all painted white. And the reason for that is because once upon a time, there was a dado rail here painted in glorious white gloss. There was lining paper on here, or maybe wallpaper from years gone by, that had then been painted over the top. So it could just be peeled off quite easily. But then I was left with the bare plaster. And I just thought, I can't. I know this is going to take a while to get to. I'm going to have to paint it white for my sanity. So it's white. with just a brilliant white, which you know I'm not a fan of brilliant white. Bits of plaster are missing. There's holes in the walls, but all will be skimmed in time once the floor's done. You can see how far off finishing I am. So I hope you're prepared for a long road ahead with me. But I know in the back of my head that it will be addressed at some point, just not this year. So this hall was totally ripped out to the bare floor. And you could see actually old wall linings where parts of the old house was constructed. And also I think we found like a coal bunker, because this house was literally just that room there and another bedroom through there. So all of the flooring and the joists came up. The joists were then replaced with new joists, and it's also been insulated. And I cannot tell you how different it feels now that the floor has been insulated, because this end of the house had always felt quite damp. We've solved the problem, we think, thankfully, but there's so much more to tell you first. This needs to be ripped out as well. This is a storage cubbyhole with a door that doesn't really work, with a wall that's very flimsy. So not great, but for now it will do. There's only one bathroom in this house at the moment, and that will be ripped out as part of this bathroom renovation. I don't want to say that I'm embarrassed to show you, but it's not good. So this bathroom, again, felt very, very damp. And that's because there were a few places with water ingress. And you might have already noticed that there's no bath panel and that there's no panel underneath this radiator as well. And my luxury shower unit, not so luxury. So the story is that when I moved in, I thought, I'll treat myself to a super full bath. I'll put the candles on. I'll get myself a glass of wine and I will relax in my lovely bath. So I filled it right up to the top, as far as I could possibly go. And then when I was having the bath, I was like, what's that noise? I can hear kind of like a waste pipe almost noise. No water was going into the waste pipe. Water was actually going through this, I don't know what you call them, overflow down onto the floor. So I've had to take this bath panel off to make sure it's absolutely bone dry, because it's just soaked into cement for I don't know how many years. So that's why there's not a bath panel on there. And then I can't remember what happened, but there was another big problem, and we couldn't find the master water, what do you call it? The stopcock. Couldn't find the stopcock. And for some reason it's underneath here. So that's another story for another time, because there's still so much to tell you. This is not good either. Now, this wall backs onto the kitchen wall with the cooker hob that's too low. And I was there one day cooking, and I was looking at the trim on the top of the counter, and it was sort of peeling back. And I thought, I think I can see sort of mold on the paintwork on the wall. And then I was having a shower, and I could feel bits of grout in the shower tray. And then on closer inspection, the grout had actually disintegrated and water was getting into the wall. You're starting to realise now why there was a damp problem. So immediately I stopped the shower and basically took the tiles off the wall and realised that it must have been soaking in there for I don't know how long, because this wood was like sponge, and when you touched it, it was just disintegrating. And so never had a shower again in here. I've sprayed it with the mold spray to stop it from continuing or to be released into the atmosphere, but it's not good. I mean, it's not good. It's not good. It was actually quite devastating to find that, because not only will we have to rip this out, but we're going to have to rip that whole wall, this side of the wall skin off as well. We've got the double sinks here for that time when it was a very fashionable thing. Needless to say, this whole thing is going to be ripped out. I don't actually use the sink, not that I'd need to, but it leaks as well into this cupboard. So this was one big damp kind of thing going on in here. So I've had this light put in because none of the lights worked. And then when I was looking to see about changing this bulb, I was looking at that thinking, is that a floating ceiling? And yes, it is a floating ceiling. So actually there is about a 3-inch gap from the actual ceiling to this ceiling. And I'm not 100% sure why, but it might be because there were some leaks from the boiler showing on the ceiling. I don't know. I'll never know. But this bathroom is a whole thing of its own. My vision for it is rip the whole thing out. Everything, reel back to bare bones. And then this will be ripped out. And this door needs to go on this side. So picture the scene. The door's on this side and you enter. There's a wall here. And then the toilet can stay where it is. And actually that shower will be a walk-in shower on this side. Beautiful, love that. This window will then be bricked up. And because we're going to knock all of this out, and there's some weird step in the wall as well, I'm assuming because the plumbing is actually in this section here, that will be ripped out. And then we can have a really nice, beautiful, oblong window here and potentially a bath underneath it. Other side of the shower could be a sink with some storage and a mirror, and it will just flow a lot better than what it currently does now, and it would be a better use of space. This shower head is in here because when I wash Maggie in the bath, I actually attach it to the taps. So one day, and I think you heard it here first, the next big thing that people are going to be incorporating into their homes are little pooch shower areas. That's going to be the next big thing, and I can't wait to have one of my own. Okay, I wish I could tell you that we're nearly finished, but we're not. This is a 3-bedroom bungalow. This is the biggest room in the house. Would be classed as the master bedroom. At the moment, it's a dumping ground. The same thing had to be done with the floor here. All the joists had to come up, and it wasn't until that happened that the full extent of why there was a damp problem in here was realised. So I'll start from the top. In this room, there was lots of fitted wardrobes. There was a corner thing over here. And do you remember in the 70s, there were cupboards either side of the main bed and then cupboards across? Well, that's what this had across here. And it felt super, super damp in here. All of those fitted wardrobes were ripped out immediately. And behind them, huge amounts of black mold. And obviously that's pretty distressing. And I thought, wow, maybe we do actually have a damp-proof problem. But I thought, maybe it's because this part of the house doesn't get much sunlight. Maybe the house doesn't really get aired that much. And maybe it's actually a fixable problem. The love affair with the dehumidifier went on, and it was just drawing so much moisture out of this room. I thought maybe that was the solution to the problem. Until recently, when finally the floor through here was ripped up, new joists and insulation put down. When the floor was ripped up, I thought the ground floor, the dirt floor, was super, super damp. And we thought, maybe it was a leaking pipe that had just been dripping for potentially a decade. And that's why the house, oh, that's why this part of the house felt really, really damp. No, that wasn't the case. We were stood here kind of looking and assessing and talking to our builder friend as well. And then we saw it, the air bricks, which are built into the wall to literally let air circulate so that it doesn't get damp underneath here, had been bricked up to with the patio outside. And so every time it rained, water was literally cascading down and in underneath the floor, which at the time was just such a relief, like a revelation of, oh, this is why there's so much moisture in this room. So what we've done is we've taken out the bricks that are closest to the air bricks, and then we're going to put what's called a French drain in. So we're going to gravel the space between the wall and the patio, I guess. And I tell you, what a difference that's made. The dehumidifier, I mean, it's summer now, but the dehumidifier has not been drawing up as much, and it's slowly drying. And insulating the floor has made a huge difference as well. That's just the tip of the iceberg for this room. Because there has been work going on upstairs, and we'll move on to that next, there was an old water filter up there, which had kind of vibrated its way away from the wall. And then one morning I got up super early and I thought, God, I can hear dripping. And it wasn't long after we had discovered the problem with the ground here. And I thought, gosh, what is that dripping? Is it the rain? So I kind of looked outside. I thought, no, it's not raining. What is it? So I came in here. I thought, I can hear, I'm walking closer to the noise. Looked out the window, no rain. And then realized the drip was coming from the ceiling into this room, and I was absolutely beside myself. So immediately turned the mains off. We know where the mains is now. It's in the bathroom. And investigated upstairs, drilled a hole in the ceiling to let the water out. And the drip was coming from the water softener to the ceiling. And that's where I could hear the drip. And it had basically flooded upstairs. Thankfully, not too bad. And now it's summer, it would have all dried out. It's hard to roll with the punches sometimes. And honestly, I see this all the time with clients' homes. One thing has a knock-on effect to another, and can cause a problem, particularly when you're ripping stuff out or putting floors down or big structural stuff. So I kind of wasn't surprised. I knew that I wouldn't, come out of a renovation like this unscathed at any point. So it was kind of a moment where I thought, oh, yes, this is exactly the sort of thing that happens when you're doing a renovation. My vision for this room is to make it actually an incredible guest bedroom. Now, we'll talk about outside a little bit later, but what I think would be incredible is, if possible, time allowing, to have some French doors on here, because that opens up onto a bit of a courtyard area on the outside there, which would be quite quaint. If you're a guest in the morning, you could have a coffee machine in here and just kind of open the French doors and have a little coffee on, and maybe a bistro set, a little table and chairs. And I'm also growing a wisteria across the fence back there. So I just think in those kind of spring months, to lay in your bed and to look at beautiful wisteria and some lovely plants could be stunning. And then this window again could have maybe two huge rectangular windows up here. I don't know. Structurally, that might not be possible because this is the corner of the house. So I have to cross that bridge when I get to it. But if you imagine a beautiful bed here with an incredible headboard, it could be quite a fabulous space for a guest bedroom. Last but not least, because we've got the outside to explore yet, the upstairs. Before we get to the upstairs, I'll tell you about this part of the hall. Again, all the floors been up, the joists have been changed, and the insulation's been put in as well. But this is the original entrance to the house before the 1990s extension, I believe. And you can't see it now because of the roller blind, but there is a window here and it's very, very thin with a thin opening, thin side of the window that opens. And ideally, I'd like one big window there that maybe you could do it. I think it's called a twist and turn, where you just turn the handle and the window actually opens at the top only. It's hinged at the bottom, and you could let some lovely fresh air in through there. Rather than have it divided up with separate windows, I think that would be a better use of that space. So one of the reasons this house was so attractive is because very unusually, the upstairs had not been renovated. So it was a complete attic space. I'm showing you this really in the deepest, darkest depths of this renovation. Loads of work has been done up to this point, but it's still pretty grisly. Okay. Ooh. It's hot up here. So up here hasn't yet been insulated, as you can see. There was a lot of work to do. Not just that, we needed a new roof on the house. So that's exactly what happened. This whole roof was ripped off. The hips from the gable end of the house from each extension were still in situ. So those were all cut out and a brand new roof was put on, which meant that actually we can get a really good idea of how big this space possibly could be. What it also highlighted, and you've guessed it, there was a problem, was the different heights in the floor joists from extension to extension as planning regulations changed. So what's had to happen is the joists have had to be levelled throughout, ready for insulating and cable flooring to go down. The idea of this space is to have stairs coming up by the front door, an office at that end, and a big open space here with a bathroom on this end, because that's where all the plumbing is for the bathroom downstairs. So it's really simple to plumb up, and with all the waste, etc., it can all be in the same space. And then on this other side over here, plenty of storage, because when you build up into an attic space, which is normally used for storage, you're going to lose that storage space. So on this side, there will be plenty of storage for my kite surfing gear, my surfing gear, and all my other bits and bobs that I've collected over the years. Okay, so it's so hot up there, we had to stop recording because the camera conked out. We filmed as much as we kind of needed to. There's so much that's going to happen upstairs anyway that you'll get to see. But I think that's pretty much downstairs done, apart from the snug, which I will show you now. So this, again, has been a bit of a, I don't want to say dumping ground, but it's just try and fit everything in. So I've got my office, I've got a standing desk, and upstairs I'll try and make space to have a standing desk as well. So the dream here is to have the staircase coming up from this side. It will have to have 2 flights. So this flight here to a platform, and then up to upstairs, the room upstairs once that's there. So that's the hope. And then all of this gym equipment will go into that corner. And then this brings us back round to the atrium, as I like to call it. And that is the whole house downstairs. And with that, I will now show you outside, because there's quite a lot going on out there. And even just talking to you about it, I'm starting to realise how much work there is still to do. From the outside, I'm starting at the end and we'll work our way through back to the front. This whole area was basically kind of just mud, as you'll see from the agent's photos. So there was a huge hedge here. We ripped out the hedge because it was way over the boundary, and we put lovely new fence in, and then basically gravelled this whole bit because this is a really ideal veg growing area. Built a huge shed for all of the garden equipment and bits and bobs. And that's as far as we're going to go with this area here. But it's just tidied it up, and it's just made it a little bit more presentable. And driving to the house, it's very nice to have a nice, neat fence to be driving along before we get into the drive. This is where we pass those air bricks that we're letting the water in to this master bedroom. And you can see we've just made a really quick job of digging out a little trench, which will then become a French drain. This is the little courtyard area that main bedroom looks out onto, and that's why I think it would be incredible to have some French doors here to look out onto this area. I have put these tension wires across the fence to grow some lovely plants, and this is a wisteria which actually has been flowering as well. I've only had it for a couple of years, and I think I'm actually going to dig up that ground and plant it into the ground. But it's going to grow all the way along here, and I'm going to put some more tension wires in for it to really creep across beautifully. It's also where I'm nursing some almost dead plants. I absolutely adore my passion flower. This is a gift from my mum, actually. Isn't that an incredible flower? Just the geometry of it. In the main part of the garden, the next big thing that we're doing here is actually having this oak tree cut back, because there's quite a few broken limbs on there, but also there's quite a few dead limbs. And because there's a lovely new roof, I don't want any big branches landing on that roof. So any week now, that's actually going to be cut back, and so is the pine as well. Of course, this is Maggie's garden and the actual house of Maggie as well, her little dog house. But again, because she's a puppy, I've not bothered with landscaping it or making it look any prettier, because she's actually been digging up the grass and eating plants. As you can see, that's one of my grasses in the back there that never grows because she chews on it. Overall, it's actually a really stunning garden because we're surrounded by pine trees and other types of foliage, and there is nothing better on a Sunday to be out here having breakfast with a cup of tea, because you can hear the birds, surrounded by greenery, and it's really quite peaceful. Before Maggie was here, I actually planted a wildflower meadow, and I've just got the remnants of some poppies at the front there, which I'm surprised have survived. Otherwise, the only other thing that I've planted is a hydrangea, which I've actually had to protect from Maggie with some chicken wire. She doesn't seem to have bitten the other plant that's over there, but that's the extent of the gardening through here, apart from the fact that my honeysuckle seems to be dying for some reason. I've tension wired through here on this wall as well. I don't know why, but it is literally dying a death. I'm not sure. So any honeysuckle aficionados, please let me know what I've done wrong. And that's about it. That's the extent of the project. When I say extent, obviously it's a very big project, but if you're in for the long haul and you want to follow along, which is going to take at least a year, then this is the renovation for you. And it's a really great kind of deep dive into actually what happens for me on a day-to-day almost with clients as well. We'll have a look around a house like this, then the builders will come in, rip everything out, new plaster, etc. During that time, we'll be working out the interior. So I hope you enjoy this journey.